Hello, once again, welcome to another edition of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Mouth of Michigan, Rob Mendyker. With me, as always, my co-host, the Mark Stone, Mike Merkel.
Yes.
And we have so much to go over today, like we always do. I say it every week, but it's always true. There's always so much going on in the sports world. We're talking some SEC football. We're going to do a deep dive into each one of their team schedules and who we got coming out of the SEC, possibly into the Final Four, and so on. We're going to talk the Detroit Tiger problems and how they could potentially set a record that nobody wants to have. We're going to start the second part of the episode off with NXT Takeover and how that show went and our reviews and thoughts on that. We're going to talk NWA coming back to television. That's right, the National Wrestling Alliance is trying to secure a TV deal. They're going to be doing some TV tapings later in the year. And we're going to end it, hopefully on a high note, with some Lions playoff talk. That's right, Lions playoff. Yes, it could be a possibility. Stay tuned to the very end of the show. Do not doubt me. All right, you're already laughing, so you're not helping me sell this. Nope, you're not doing me nothing. At all. Jeez. All right, let's go. You're still sour about that preseason game. I know. I feel you.
Not even. Okay.
We'll talk about it. All right, let's just jump right in, though, Mike. Obviously, you've been doing a great job so far. We've done the Big Ten. We've done the Big 12. We've done
the Pac-12.
The Pac-12. They all got numbers. Let's talk now about the SEC. One of the more, obviously probably the most known conference outside the Big Ten, especially here in Michigan, right? There's a lot of powerhouse teams. Let's just go and jump right in, guys. We know the drill by now.
Hopefully, I
don't know. Kyle's not here, so he's not going to just say random words.
Yeah, like Jared Cook or something.
Hope to find a meaningful sentence in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Does Jared Cook play for Alabama?
No, he does
not.
Oh,
then they're not winning it. Then.
Yeah, I guess not. So we're going to start with the SEC East.
Okay.
I think that's how we go, right? East and West? Yeah, East and West.
Sure, why not?
So we got the East over here. First team we're going to look at is Florida.
Florida.
So last year they were 10-3. They're overset at 10.5 games. Already uneasy.
Yeah, that's tough. Florida's a weird team. Like, if you would have told me Florida was 10-3, like, you just said that, and I kind of just went, really? They were 10-3?
Yep.
Like, I didn't think they were as good as that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say the under. I think 10 wins is probably their
already?
max.
Not even looking at the schedule?
No, I just, because I can't name a player on the Florida team.
I mean, I can't name anyone in the SEC for the most part.
That's true, I guess. Give me their schedule. Maybe I'll change my mind.
So
I'm already ready.
So they have a pretty easy non-conference schedule. They play like Miami, UT Martin, and Towson. So that's like,
That's probably 3 wins
right there.
Miami used to be good for like a season.
Yeah, they do have tough home away games. They got Kentucky on the road, LSU on the road, and Missouri if you want to count that on the road. And then their home games, they have like Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida State at the end of the season.
I don't even play Bama this year, huh?
Nope.
No Bama this year?
They skipped out on Bama. They do have Georgia at home.
I'm going to still stay under, honestly. Like I said, I don't know enough about them to be like super confident about it, but at the same time, like I said, I just don't. Florida is a team where everybody expects they're going to be ranked 15. You know what I mean? Kind of throughout the year, that's where they're going to be, right? That's kind of, they're a middle of the road, they're a top program, I guess, but they're not, I don't see them as national championship contenders, top 10 team
That's
quality.
fair. All right, next up we got Georgia. Georgia was 11-3 last year, and their under is also 10.5 games. Let's see, they got an easy non-conference schedule. They do have a home game against Notre Dame, which could be very tough, but they also got Murray State and Arkansas State.
So right there.
Yeah, those are all 3 in a home. We got Murray State, Arkansas State, and then Notre Dame all in a row, all at home. So that's a nice little gimme there.
Yeah.
Then they got away games at Tennessee, at Auburn, at Georgia Tech through the season, but you also have their home games against Florida and Missouri and Texas A&M. So it's not looking too tough.
No, I'm going to say the over, honestly. I think if this is going to be the year for Georgia, I think this is going to be the year. They got a good experienced quarterback at the helm. I know they lost some pieces right offensively over the past 2 drafts, that they had, but at the same time, I don't think any team outside of Clemson has pushed Alabama to its limits like they have. So if this is going to be the year to do it, I think this has probably got to be, because I think Fromm's going to leave after this year, along with Tua from Bama, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think it's got to be the over there. I think they're too talented of a football team at this point to kind of,
That's fair.
Kirby Smart's a fantastic coach. So
yeah. That's very fair.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Kentucky. Last year, they were 10-3.
10-3, really? Wow.
A lot of good teams in the SEC
Yeah, no
last
kidding.
year. and their thing is set at 7.5.
Okay.
So a little bit lower. They lost Josh Allen, who was their big star there.
Yeah.
So they're setting it a little lower there.
Yeah.
They play early games against like Toledo and Eastern Michigan. So I'm assuming those are probably
Hey, don't
easier.
you count those Eagles out, all right, from Eastern Michigan, okay?
That's
don't
true.
You count
I can't,
those guys
can't
out.
count them out, even though I will count them out very easily. They play road games against Mississippi State, Georgia. That's about to be tough. But then they also got home games against Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Louisville at the end of the season.
So Bama's not playing any of these teams.
Nope.
So far.
Bama's on the other side of this conference.
Yeah, right.
So they
there's
didn't
no
pull
real
these
cross.
teams.
Yeah, right. Okay, so, yeah, I'll take the over. Why not? Right? I mean, I don't see any besides Georgia. I don't think there's any team that I can clearly on paper say, oh yeah, they're better than Kentucky.
Would you say Florida's better than Kentucky?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
I
so
would
those
say probably those two. Yeah, sorry, not Florida too, but just overall, I mean, they're an okay team, right? Their non-conference is pretty much cakewalk for the most part. So that's a couple wins right there. It's 7, right? 7.5. I think they could get to 8 easy.
Okay. Next up, we got Missouri. Last year they were 8-5. They're also set at 7.5.
I'm gonna take the under on this already.
Okay.
Missouri, but.
So they have their early schedule at Wyoming, home against West Virginia, home against South Carolina. Could be a tough
those
road there.
and none of those games right there you just said are gimmies to me.
No.
Like even Wyoming, like that's a low key. That's a game where that spread's gonna be weird opening weekend. West Virginia, that's not a cakewalk. Right? And who was the other one? South Carolina. There's no way, dude. Those 3 games they're not, I wouldn't say they're like, oh my gosh, you have to win those, but those are not easy gimme non-conference.
Yep. And then late in the season, they have at Kentucky, at Georgia, home against Florida, home against Tennessee in a stretch.
Yeah,
of 4 games.
that's a gauntlet right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even Tennessee, I'm not super high on Tennessee either, but I mean, either way, even if they get that 1-3 in that 4-game stretch.
Yeah. Then you're at Arkansas to end the season.
All right. Well, Arkansas sucks, but everybody else, I mean, that's a tough schedule. So I'm gonna say the under on that. That is a tough, because I think that they will be lucky to get 2-1 out of those 3 games in the opening stretch there.
Yeah.
So I think they drop one of those.
Okay. So next up we got South Carolina. Last year they were 7-6. Their thing is set at 6.5 games. So they open the season home against North Carolina. Have a pretty easy non-conference schedule. Charleston Southern's the other team they got. So this is the first team that plays Alabama. They play home against Alabama. So that's gonna be a fun one to go through.
Yeah,
they also play home against Kentucky, but they also have road games at Georgia and at Tennessee and at Texas A&M.
Jeez.
And then they end the season home against Clemson.
Yeah, so what's their set at right now?
6.5.
That's under. Jeez, I mean, good lord, man. Every possible team you're playing. I mean, good for South Carolina for putting teams on their schedule, but at the same time,
awesome. They also got Appalachian State.
Yeah, that's not a gimme either.
I mean, like Michigan fans.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a gimme at all. You know, so that's a terrible season. Good lord.
Next up, we got Tennessee. Last year they were 5-7. Their thing is set at 7.5. So maybe some improvement.
Okay, sure.
Early in the season, they play Georgia State, BYU, and UT Chattanooga all at home.
There's 3 wins right there.
They have home games against Georgia, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt through the season, but they also have a tough road schedule. They play at Florida, at Alabama, at Kentucky, at Missouri.
I think they lose all those games, pretty sure, honestly. Like, I maybe not the Missouri, but what's it set at? 7.5?
7.5.
7.5. I'm gonna take the under. I don't see where that. I mean, I get the 3 wins right off the top, yeah, but I think their conference record is just going to be abysmal. So I look at the SEC a lot like I kind of look at the Pac-12, where I think there's a clump of 2 or 3 teams that are really good, and I think the rest kind of just beat each other up, so they're always kind of in that middle 7, 8, maybe 9 win range. You know what I mean? Maybe Florida peaks out there and gets 10 wins, but there's a lot of teams that are all so close as far as ability goes. And you know, it's all kind of relative. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, what's your flavor of the month? That's kind of how you have to roll with it. I feel like. Yeah.
And the last team sitting here in the East is Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They were 6-7 last year. Their thing is set at 4.5.
Yeah, it doesn't strike.
So they have a pretty tough schedule. So they play at Purdue early. They got UNLV and Eastern Tennessee State as their non-conference schedule.
They probably win 2 out of those.
Yeah. And then they have home games against Georgia, LSU, Kentucky, But then then those are just home games.
Jeez.
Away games, you got Ole Miss, you got Florida, Tennessee. Not looking pretty nice there.
No, it's not. That's going to be an under. Look, Vanderbilt's like they're like the Rutgers. I always have a Rutgers team, that I can relate it to. That's Vanderbilt, honestly. They haven't been relevant since Cutler was there, and even then, that's how you know that's not very good. Jay Cutler is your most famous player to come out of there in a long time. Nothing against Cutler, but that career obviously didn't live up to the hype. So with that being said, I'm going to take the under. That's a rough. Even your home conference games, that's a tough stretch. Like talk about your home field advantage being negated. Mm-hmm. Gross.
So who'd you have winning the East?
I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to say Georgia. Yeah, I think, like I said, if this has to be the year. If this is not the year, I don't know what else. I mean, they had 2 first-round, basically Chubb was second-round pick, but 2 basically first-round talent running backs. They've had receivers there. The defense has been above average, if nothing else, right? Yep. You've had a quarterback since he was a freshman play pretty darn well. Mm-hmm. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does for that offense. And so you're going to have a lot of talent still on that team that could have made a run the past 2 years and even did 2 years ago. I think this has got to be the year if they're going to do it.
Yep.
I don't know if they do, but I think this has got to be the year.
I pretty much agree with that whole thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Georgia. It could be Florida, but I'm pretty much on Georgia. If I had a bet on it, it would be Georgia.
Right, yeah. I just think from a depth perspective, from key players, right? The most important player, we always say this, right? The most important player on the field is quarterback, but especially in college where if you have an experienced guy who's played in big-time situations like that, regardless of what you think his attributes are, whether he can throw the ball 60 yards, whether he's fast, he's athletic, whatever the case may be, in college football, if you have a truly a stud starting quarterback, I think you're in great shape.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
So, I mean, that's half my reason why my reservations about Michigan. I don't know if Shea Patterson is a good enough quarterback to get this team where it needs to be if in the situation where a defense has a bad day. Like that Ohio State game, the defense got shredded, but the offense was like, I got you, kind of thing, right? They were nowhere to be found. That's the kind of guy that I think that they have at Georgia right now.
Okay. So now we're going to head over to the west of the SEC. Do I even need to go through it?
We will before they're fans, but Bama.
That's fair. So Alabama's the first team we'll talk about since they're going to go in alphabetical order here.
Yeah.
So they're over set at 11.5.
Jeez.
And they were 14-1 last year.
No?
Yeah. They obviously lost the national championship and went undefeated all the way to then.
Yep.
So they have home games against Duke, New Mexico State, Southern Miss, and then your second to last game, Western Carolina. They got right before the Auburn game.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Through the season, they play at Texas A&M, at Mississippi State, at Auburn. They have home game against LSU, Tennessee, Arkansas, Ole Miss.
Dude, this is a crock, dude. Here's another problem. Obviously the over. They're going to go undefeated. If Auburn doesn't beat them, they're going undefeated. But here's the thing. We just talked about South Carolina, right? Who is struggling to get 6-7 wins a year. But they've got Bama, they've got Clemson, they've got all these teams that are higher profile on their schedule. And I can't name a single team on that list with the exception of Auburn who's going to be over 500 on that schedule. I get it. They're awesome, and they've won national championships, so you can say that they even in the big games, they show up more often than not. But come on. Seriously? That's your schedule? That's like if Michigan said, we're not going to play Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan State any year. Ever. We're never going to play those 3 teams. Because those are usually 3 other good teams in the Big Ten.
Yep.
How retarded is that? That is so dumb on so many levels. That makes me, as an Alabama fan, you going undefeated is like the New England Patriots winning the division in the NFL. It's all right, what else do you got? Because you don't play anybody half the damn time. So stupid.
I feel the same.
So stupid. Gosh, that's so dumb. I mean, you're good, I get it, but come on.
So next up, we got Arkansas. Last year they were 2-10, and they're over set at 4.5 games. So they play home games against Portland State, Colorado State,
Portland State, jeez.
Yes, and San Jose State.
Good Lord. Maybe.
And Western Kentucky, so maybe you pull out some wins in those. You got at Ole Miss, You got at Kentucky,
Goodness
at Alabama,
gracious.
good
Yeah.
luck. At LSU, good luck, I guess.
I'm gonna take the over just because they're opening. I mean, they got 3 games right off the top that they should win. Plus, I like their head coach, honestly. Former offensive coordinator at Clemson. I like the fact that they're trying to build something. I think Arkansas is just severely one of those teams where it sticks out like a sore thumb in the SEC. Like they're a team that I feel like should have been like in the Big Ten or something. You know what I mean? Not geographically, but just the way they play and everything else. It just seems like a team that kind of would fit better in there. I'm gonna give them the over though.
Okay.
I think they're trying to turn.
Next up, we got Auburn. So last year they were 8-5.
Down year for Auburn.
Yep,
sure.
they're setting at 7.5.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Here's
Lost
some
their
reason why
quarterback, I
they
guess.
opened the season home against Oregon.
That's a rough go.
So that's
a tough
how they're
draw
gonna
there.
open their season.
They lost their quarterback too, which hurts.
Yep.
Which hurts for sure.
So also they got Tulane and Kent State and Samford
Right,
as their openers. So probably 3-1 through that set if I had to imagine.
Right.
But you have home game against Alabama and Georgia late in the season, so that's kind of helpful. But you play at LSU, at Florida, and at Texas A&M.
See, those
so
are
nothing.
Jeez,
Not,
that's
nothing,
nothing.
no gimmies there.
None whatsoever. What's it? 7.5.
7.5.
I always hate the half. I don't know why they just can't give me like a hard. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I could give you hards, but at the same time,
I know.
It's
I think that's probably. Jeez, I'm probably gonna say 7. And the only reason why I'm going to say 7 and not take the over is just because, like, the Bama game is always weird because there's a lot of emotion that gets thrown into there. But the rest of those games, I mean, maybe Texas A&M they beat, right? I don't think they beat LSU. Florida, that's going to be a tight game. I can't in good conscience be like, oh, yeah, they usually get to 9 wins or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see where the rest of those wins are going to come from. The way that's set up, you know what I mean? They don't really play any gimme games on their conference schedule, which I commend them for. Maybe Bama should take a hint.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There were reports that in the upcoming years you're going to try to schedule harder teams.
Oh, okay, good. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it's just stupid to me. Like honestly, you're rewarding a team at this point for doing nothing.
Well, no, that was always my thing. You look at it and you just go, I feel like there's some one-loss teams that deserve it more.
Right, because you didn't play anybody all year.
Yeah, because you just go, then why would Michigan try to go schedule Notre Dame?
Right, I have no incentive.
When it doesn't impact you at all.
No incentive, right, exactly.
Because even if they go undefeated, Alabama goes undefeated, they go, well, they did beat that one team 59-3, so aren't they better? And it's like, no, because they didn't play Notre Dame, they played Chattanooga.
Yeah,
that's why. But they give them the edge at that point then. So I'm
in total agreement with you, dude. Like I'm saying, even Georgia's schedule's harder. Like there's a lot of teams where it's like that's why I think there's a lot of uproar when you see 2 SEC teams make it when Bama's been coasting the entire time. You know what I mean? We're like I'm gonna be honest with you. If Bama goes undefeated and loses the SEC championship this year to Georgia, right? So spoiler, that's what I'm picking, is those 2 teams. But if they lose to Georgia, I don't think Bama should get in.
No.
Even at undefeated with the 1 loss, because you didn't play anybody all year to warrant being like, you know what? They had a tough schedule. They beat a whole bunch of other teams, and then they lost in the SEC championship
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it 2 years ago where they didn't win the SEC championship? But they ended up getting there.
Yes, they were
Ohio
4 seed.
State.
Yes, they were 4
as a 4 seed against Clemson.
Correct.
That year.
Yes.
The year they played Georgia in the championship. They played Georgia in the SEC championship game or something. And lost one.
I believe so. I believe you're right.
I have to fact check that.
Yeah.
But there was a time when they lost it, but they still got into the playoff.
Correct.
And I was like, how does that?
Or did they win the SEC championship game and lose to Auburn or something?
Maybe it was that.
Maybe. I don't know. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a situation.
That's what I'm saying, though, right? Like, if you go undefeated, that's the only caveat to this, right? Like, you go undefeated, you win your conference championship, you're in. I get it. But if you don't, there is no justifiable purpose for me. Don't tell me, well, on paper they look like a good matchup. I don't care what they look like on paper. If you don't win your conference and you have a cakewalk schedule like that, there is no reason why you should be in the final.
That's also why Ohio State, the year they got snuffed out by Oklahoma,
right?
I was totally okay with it because they lost by 30 points to Purdue, and that whole year they played an easy non-conference.
Right. Yeah. The only team they beat was Michigan.
Yeah, and I was like, you don't deserve to make it if you play one top 5 team,
right?
Or one.
And
top
we all know Michigan
team.
was a fraud too, so it all makes sense. It's all cyclical. It all comes together. All right, let's keep going.
Wow, that was.
Well, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
It's just annoying though, right? So I'm listening to these schedules, and like even in other divisions where you go, man, they all play each other, man. It's going to be a hell of a schedule. Well, and then you got Bama over here, the number 1 team in the country. Yeah, we had a rough one. Yeah, we played San Jose State. They took us tough. We only beat them like 60-14. Like it was crazy. So stupid. But continue.
All right, LSU's next. Last year they were 10-3.
Good season. Good bounce back here.
They're set at 9.5 games. So they start the season against Georgia Southern. Then they got at Texas.
That's a tough one.
Home against Northwestern State, and then their other one is Utah State at home.
Yeah.
So those are 3 out of their 4. They play home games against Florida, Auburn, and Arkansas, Texas A&M. They also have their big road game against Alabama, and also Mississippi State is a tough one.
There's 10.5.
10.5.
Jeez, that's tough. I think they get 10 wins, but I don't think they get over that. I think there's a couple teams in there where, like, I feel like a Florida game, that's a trap game in a lot of respects, right? The Bama, that's going to be tough no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think 10's probably their top, just because of that. I'm going to give them that just because I think Ed Orgeron's hilarious because I can't understand a word it says.
Mississippi State's next. Last year they were 8-5. Their thing is set at 7.5. So they start their season in Louisiana, Southern Miss, Kansas State, and then later they have Abilene Christian as a non-conference schedule. So take that as you may.
Yeah.
You got home games against Kentucky, LSU, and Alabama.
Jeez.
But you also go on the road against Auburn, Tennessee, Texas A&M.
Those are I just under. I'm going to take the under. That's terrible. That's a lot. So once again though, right? You can name all these teams and go, wow, that's a rough schedule. And then Bama's like, yeah, we played 3 blind kids and a deaf guy. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just ridiculous. So stupid. But yeah, I'm going to take the under.
Ole Miss last year was 5-7, and they're predicted to be at around the 4.5 mark as they're under over.
Unfortunately.
So they start the season at Memphis, home against Southeastern Louisiana and California. Let's see. They play at Alabama, at Missouri, at Auburn, at Mississippi State. You got home games against Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, New Mexico State, LSU.
I think you get 5 wins.
You think so?
I think you get 5 wins there. Yeah, I think you can. There's some teams, like I said, they're in the bottom half of both conferences that are just going to beat up on each other, and it's going to be like, oh, big win, oh, big loss, big win, big loss. It's just going to be a crap show.
The final team we got here is Texas A&M. Last year they were 9-4. They're set at 8.5 wins.
Little Jimbo Fisher.
So, they start the season. It's interesting. Home against Texas State, at Clemson, home against Lamar, and then later in the season they got UTSA. Take that as you may. So they also play home games against Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, but they play Ole Miss, and then they end the season on a back-to-back road stretch against Georgia and LSU.
Wow, that's rough. What's it set at right now?
8.5.
8.5. I'm gonna take the under on that. Okay. I'm gonna take the under. I don't think Jimbo Fisher's that good of a coach, honestly. No. I think he got paid a crap ton of money thinking he was gonna turn the program around. But you're in the SEC. You're not at Florida State anymore. It's a totally different world, you know. So I'm gonna take Bama to win that side, even though it annoys me. But as we're talking and as more annoyed as I realize how cakewalk of a schedule, I'm going to say Georgia wins the SEC. Okay. I was coming in thinking I was going to take Bama, but now that you read the schedule for me, I didn't do that beforehand, and I think Georgia's going to get it. I think if Georgia gets there, they go through the ringer, I think this will finally be the time where they knock them off the pedestal and they get there.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably say Alabama, but as a upcoming, I think LSU has a good chance.
Absolutely.
If they beat Alabama, I think they win it.
I think LSU needs I wish LSU was able to get a truly every time I watch LSU, the first thing I think about is their quarterback is just average.
Yeah,
it's always just
they can only run the ball because
exactly. He's just kind of it's so whatever. But all right, so you got Bama winning the whole thing.
I'm gonna have Bama over Georgia,
right.
But I wouldn't be shocked to see an LSU beat Alabama this year during the season. Then you got
I think honestly,
LSU,
LSU and I think Auburn is always one of those weird games. So those two games.
That's a weird game, but I don't think Auburn can win it.
Yeah, right.
I think LSU can legitimately win it
for sure.
If they wanted to.
For sure, absolutely. All right, before we go to break, let's talk some Tigers real quick here.
Okay.
They have potential right now, the way the Tigers are playing. They have potential to lose the most games in history. Now, when I made the script for the show earlier this week, I think they were at a point to where they had to lose. They could only win if they won. I think 10 or less games or 9 or less games. They'd set the record for most losses ever. They've gone down. And I think they've won 2 out of their last 4.
Okay.
So I think it's more 7 games now. But with that being said, if they somehow set the record for ineptitude in Major League Baseball, do you think Al Avila should be fired? That's the only thing I really want to talk about, because if they set this record, now it's improbable, they'd have to go like 7-39 or something the rest of the way, which would be crazy, but nonetheless, do you think Avila should be fired? Even though we knew going in, listen, they're going to be bad, they're going to be terrible, we know this going in, but this bad, setting a whole new level of suckitude, do you think he has enough stroke to be like, listen, I get it, but it's going to get better? Or, I knew we were going to be bad, but as an owner, as a fan, I go, it can't be this bad.
Well, let's see, how am I going to put this? I would still give him a chance.
Yeah.
Because even if you're the worst team, you're in the rebuild mode.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not... I didn't have expectations of anything more than this.
Right.
I guess you could say, as you're saying, well, did you expect to be this bad? But then I say... Kind of, because when you look at what they have, they literally have nothing.
And obviously some injuries have played into it, right? They sold some assets at the trade deadline. I get it, right? But like theoretically, like if you win less than 10 games over the next like 45, whatever's left, that's really bad. Like that's really bad.
Then you're just expecting a longer rebuild. But at the end of the day, the seasons are like. My thing is, once the season hits a point to where it's a dud, after that it doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
Like if the Lions.
So it doesn't matter to you whether or not like they set the record, they don't set the record. It doesn't matter to you. We're gonna have the first overall pick. Let's just keep.
See, for me, like say the Lions start like 2-10.
Yeah.
If they go 6-10 or 2-14, to me at that point it doesn't matter because it's already a loss.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So to me personally, if they're 35-80, I think I just checked right now. I think that's
35-80.
Oh 35-80 right now. Oh my gosh! So if they end up having over 110, 120
losses.
They have to have like 120 losses or whatever.
Yeah.
If they even hit 110 losses and they only have like 40 something wins.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, but like 3 months ago, I already knew the season was a dud.
Yeah.
So to me personally, I just like we got the number 1 pick or whatever, and we're all set. Like.
So do you have a message? If you had a message for Tiger fans out there right now who are pulling their hair out thinking this is like the worst thing
baseball.
ever. Oh my god. Someone's yelling at their TV right now saying like, don't watch Lions then. Don't get
that's fair,
it's totally the same thing.
Totally
but I will agree with you though. I will agree with you, Mike, that in the sense that I know some people are upset that Boyd didn't get traded. I know people were upset with the return they got for Castellanos and Jane Green. But with that being said, I think you're right. I think if you're going to see this rebuild through, you give it a whole nother year. You look at what you have coming into 2021 and saying, what do we got? Yeah. Do we have a young team where we're going to finally be able to start competing? Or if we're not there, then we need to get a new guy in here. Yeah. And we need to completely clean house, everybody, and go with it. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the best course of action. Because I think if you pull the plug a little too quickly, then you're still going to be in the rebuilding, but you could potentially be extending that rebuild even more because you're changing the way you draft, changing the way you think, everything else. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We're going to be terrible regardless. But so you might as well see the plan through before you completely just go, all right, screw it.
Yeah, I'm usually in the mindset where say like you expect the rebuild to be done in 4 years, and the second year it's really bad. But if you just restart it then, you got another 4 years to rebuild.
Exactly.
Instead of like you could just finish it.
Right. And let's see what happens, right? Yeah. Maybe we're just average. Okay, then we know that he's not the guy and you fire him.
Yeah, you fire him and then you can restart it then or whatever.
Exactly.
It's hindsight 2020.
All right, guys. That's going to be it for part 1 of episode 37. After the break, we got NXT Takeover, NWA TV, Lions playoff hopes, all the good stuff and more after the break. Stick around. Hey guys, this is the Mouth of Michigan, Rob Mendyka from the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. Just reminding you that we are live every single Monday at 7 in the morning on your favorite streaming services. All 5 major sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and professional wrestling. I'm Always Right Sports Podcast every Monday, 7 a.m. See you there. All right, and welcome back to part 2 of episode 37 of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. Let's jump right into it, Mike. NXT Takeover Toronto, is that what they were calling it, right?
Yes.
Thoughts on the show? A lot of Undisputed Era in there. We're going to talk about the depth issues with NXT here in a second. Just give me your overall thoughts. You watched it last night, or if when you're hearing this, 2 days ago. What did you think? It was our first show that we watched at my new house.
Yeah,
How crazy was that?
It only buffered half the time watching it.
But wasn't my fault, though.
No.
That was the network's fault. We cleared that up. Because I thought it was me, too. I was like, man, this sucks. This is awful. But no.
But besides all the buffering and missing parts of it and then speeding really quickly through it, which I thought was really funny. I thought the card was pretty good. I think it's actually, it's funny to say the worst one this year, but saying the worst one, I'd still give it like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say so, right.
So, like, that's not saying it's the
I
worst.
think that, and we're going to talk about the depth issues in a second, but, like, I agree with you. I think that when you look back on this show, with the exception of the main event, Cole Gargano, there's nothing on this show that I'm going to remember 6 months from now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought they all did a pretty nice job for the most part. I don't think there was any match where you're like, wow, that was terrible. But with that being said, I also don't think there's anything outside of Cole Gargano where I go, you know, like, man, I gotta watch that again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, this card doesn't have a lot of rewatch value to me. It was much just like...
Right, it's like the first time, okay, let's sit through, let's watch it. We know the action will be good. It's kind of one of those things now to where you're kind of a victim of your own success, where you're expecting it to be good, so you know it's going to be good, but at the same time, you're not, like, blown back, right? Yeah. It's not like it's like average, and then you have a great show, and then you're like, holy crap, you remember that show? Where now it's just kind of like it's expected, so now it's almost like they have to do too much or something completely out of the box. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean?
Do you think is it just me?
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any rewatch value in any of the takeovers?
The whole show? No. Individual matches, I would say yes. Like, certain matches, and you know what it is? It's not necessarily like the marquee ones. Like, I don't need to watch Ciampa Gargano again, right? Like, I don't need to see that. But I will watch, like, Oni Lorcan, Danny Burch versus Undisputed Era for the tag titles. I thought that match was phenomenal just because, you know, there was no way that you thought they were winning the tag titles.
Yeah.
But they made you, in that match, they told a great enough story to where you thought, oh my gosh, they may actually do it. You know what I mean? It's those ones, and I think that's why I think a lot of people are forgetting what wrestling really is. It's a storytelling, you know, machine is really what it is. So if they don't tell a great story and they don't suck you back in, everything's broken, right? Kayfabe's broke. Everybody knows it's not. Well, that's not real. Is not the right word, but everybody knows who's going to win and lose and all that good stuff. It's all predetermined. But to hook me back in as a lifelong fan, hook us as lifelong fans back into it to make you feel like, wow, did not expect that. I was on the edge of my seat. Even though I feel like I know what's going to happen, they got me anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of matches that make me want to rewatch. Okay. Not so much like some of the big stuff. Like, I don't need to watch the first two Cole Gargano matches again. I might watch this one again just because some of the buffering kind of hurt me a little bit. But I would agree with you, though. I don't think there's a ton of rewatch value. At the same time, though, I haven't seen it like a show really in a long time that I've really wanted to sit and rewatch start to finish. Like, I haven't wanted to watch any of the AEW shows. Maybe All Out will be different, but right now, like, I haven't. I don't know if you're the same, but
I mean, I've rewatched some of them already.
Have you really?
Yeah, I went back to watch All In, and I watched Silver. Actually, I watched the second half of Double or Nothing again. Not like the whole thing.
Yeah. Like, I just think sometimes, I think some of those shows, I think at the time you're like, wow, that was really great, but then you don't really think, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you gotta kind of give it some room, some breathing room first before you go watch it again. Like, the 6-way ladder match that Cole won the North American title, I watched that match several times. I thought that was a great match. Right. Like, I thought it was really good. You know, I was like, oh, that was fantastic. So it's just, I think it's the ebb and flow. It's what you like. You kind of said that this kind of takeover was kind of average, right? It was kind of below. Do you attribute that at all to the depth issues, right? As we mentioned, the Undisputed Era was in 3 out of the 4 title matches, right? North American Tag and obviously the NXT Championship. Gargano main eventing again. You have Velveteen Dream again. You've got Shayna Baszler still women's champion. Lots of stuff we've seen over and over and over.
It's not even that the depth issue. I just think I think the other takeovers this year, like if you look at New York, I think all 5 matches were strong. I think this one, like the Shayna match, it was just long and kind of boring at certain parts.
Yep.
I think the opening tag event for me personally
didn't have the same fervor.
As you brought up, like Burke and Lorcan against Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
This one was just like, it's okay. I had the shock value at the end of Profits winning because I didn't have them winning.
Right.
But at the same time, I was like, but nothing really extravagant happened. It was just a very good tag
it was
team
just
match.
it was a tag match. Like there was nothing where you're gonna go, wow, like did you see those guys? They put it all on the line.
Yeah.
You know
So that's why I think there were, besides the main event, none
Yeah.
of the matches blew me away. Like the Takeover 25, I feel like like the Fatal 4-Way ladder match. The one before that, they had Riddle and Velveteen Dream.
Yes.
So, all these cards over have like one or two other matches besides the main event. That's like,
absolutely.
wow, that was a
Phenomenal.
match.
Right.
This one didn't really have the match for me besides the main event. So it just didn't stack up.
I think
I don't think it was really a depth issue.
No.
You could have maybe added another match in to give like Riddle a shot or Kushida or someone in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was a depth issue. I just think the matches weren't as high quality as NXT usually is.
Yeah.
But still, given that, it's still like a 7 out of 8.
Yeah.
7 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Instead of like WWE's
No doubt.
lower ones.
No doubt, absolutely, right? And we'll obviously review SummerSlam next week, obviously, as it's going on as we record right now. So obviously we can't review it right now.
G1's
the G1s too. So we got a lot of stuff coming our way. But do you think it's time? This is the name on the sheet, but I figured I'd ask this now. Do you think it's time for the Undisputed Era to get called up? Do you think they've done as much as they can at this point? Because going in, we kind of talked about it before, maybe not on the show, but we've talked about it with some of our friends. We've gone and said, if the Era is going to do, they're going to do all 3 title matches. If they don't win them all, what do you do, right? Like I kind of thought that's kind of why we were all in the camp of this is the time they're all going to hold the championships for the 3 months or whatever, and then lose them or do whatever. Yeah. That didn't happen.
I've heard. So, spoiler alert to the very ending of this takeover that happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So, Gargano got a huge farewell. You probably know. You probably saw it. William Regal came out and hugged him. So, basically, he's like, it looks like he's pretty much done. Apparently, Vince, 2 days before takeover, from what I read at Ringside News, that he ripped up the script because Arrow was supposed to win them all, I guess. They came out this morning. They were supposed to, and he ripped them up because he wants to call them up early. Earlier than expected. So I think if I was a fantasy booker, Ciampa comes back as the biggest face.
Oh yeah,
besides
coming
Roman
off neck
Reigns
surgery. Coming off neck surgery, he's gonna be.
I think he's gonna be Cole, and then sometime between that time plan of Cole losing, Aaron probably gets called up right after that.
And here's why, and here's why I'm asking too, because we've seen kind of the repetition, the same kind of guys always on each takeover, right? There's some talent that you can kind of see. There's Kushida, there's Punishment Martinez, there's Keith Lee, there's some guy, Matt Riddle, who should have been on, Killian Dane, they're trying to redo again. Even obviously the Fashion Police, that's a tag team that could very easily be back on there. With that being said, though, I just feel like those 4 guys are so easily transferable to the main roster, in my opinion. It's such a strong group where if you keep them together and you keep them strong, I think that's easily a group you put on SmackDown once this official brand split happens post SummerSlam, where you let them run, and they face the New Day or whatever, right? I feel like that's super, super strong of a group. So I just feel like that would open up some spots at the top of the card for some of these other guys, and I feel like you kind of shake up NXT's roster a little bit.
I don't think initially, like, if NXT kept the same formula, I don't think it would impact at all if Aaron got called up. I think, because you have enough guys there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would just kind of give you fresh matchups.
Yeah, you just get new stuff.
Yeah.
However, going to the weekly 2-hour format that there's been words coming out that FS1 wants to do, I think that's where you're going to hit a lot of problems without the Era and stuff on the card.
That's true. Absolutely. No doubt, right? It's something, it's fun to play with, right? It's an idea that we know it's coming. We're just kind of figuring out, okay, how are they going to do it, right?
The Era can fill like 3 matches on a card just themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they did, right? And that's when I kind of felt like that's why this one, for me, we're both huge Undisputed Era fans, right? But at the same time, as a general bystander of going, okay, what are you trying to do here? I felt it was almost like it was an easy thing to do to go slot them in, right? Cole's the champ, obviously, so we knew that, but it was easy to go, all right, Street Profits need a win that's going to get them some credibility. All right, let's put them with the Era, right? We need to put Roderick Strong with Velveteen. They kind of had a thing, and then you bring Pete Dunne in for the outside appeal. You know what I mean? It would just seem like it was a very easy kind of way to book it out, where they're like, all right, we've got some stuff invested in the women, we got the Gargano Cole blow off, we need to fill the rest of this card with our 2 other title matches, so let's throw the best wrestlers on our roster that we have, which I believe are those 4 guys, and put them in there and let's see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is how I kind of looked at it, of how they booked it. All right, let's shift now from NXT to another wrestling brand. somebody that maybe some of our older fans maybe have heard of before, the NWA. No, I'm not talking about the rap group. I'm talking about the National Wrestling Alliance. If you don't know what the NWA is, it was the biggest governing body in professional wrestling for years, for decades even, right about until 1980s or so. That's when Hulkamania happened. Obviously, Vince McMahon took over the world, and the NWA has been primarily dead, quote-unquote, ever since. But as of late, Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis, James Storm, Eli Drake, some of these bigger independent guys who aren't signed to a specific company have kind of started the movement again. They've had some shows with Japan a few years ago. They've been partnered with Ring of Honor up until very recently, and they've now announced that they are going to do a set of television tapings at the end of, I think, this month or next month. It's August or September. I don't remember.
I heard September.
September, right? Will you, Mike, as a fan, and we'll talk about AEW here in a second, but will you be watching if it's easily available? Now, if it's just going to be on like on 3 channels in Texas, right, or something, right? Obviously, we can't. But if it's made available, maybe say on Fight TV, on YouTube, whatever the case may be, will you at least initially tune in to see? Because like besides like those 3 guys I named, there's not really an NWA roster right now. You know what I mean?
I will say I won't.
No.
And here's why. Wrestling is the most popular it's ever been right now.
Absolutely.
You can argue.
Oh yeah.
So you have the WWE, which everyone watches.
Mm-hmm.
Now you even have the AEW, which is an uprising
thing with the
that
best possible independent stars you could.
And they're gonna kind of be competing. So it's like a new WWE, but not like really. It's kind of like that, whatever. So you have
both money behind it. A long time.
So you got the 2 big companies there. Then you also have like Impact or whatever, or Ring of Honor if you're into that.
Yep.
But for me personally, I'm a big New Japan fan also.
Right. No
so
doubt. Yeah,
that's now you're looking at 3 to 4 different companies that you're watching.
Yeah.
I don't think I can invest the time with everything else of other sports and stuff I watch to invest the time that I would need to the NWA to watch that.
For sure. And this is why I'm asking, because I'm kind of in a similar boat than you, where I'm interested, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The history behind it, if you are a wrestling fan, you know what the NWA is, and if you don't, you need to go to your Google machine, you need to look it up, because there's a lot of great history there. Ric Flair made his name in the NWA. NWA became WCW, folks, just in case anybody doesn't understand that. But with that being said, I think it's the wrong time. I don't know if you agree with me, but it's just, for me, when Billy Corgan made his announcement, I went, man, this is like the worst possible time you could. And I don't know if it's strategically like, all right, we need to get on this roller coaster too, because everybody's already watching so much wrestling as it is, because there's so many options. That's like, you know what? Let's provide another alternative. But I feel like in doing that, they're also saying they are just that. Another alternative, rather than like, oh my gosh, we're going to start up here.
I think 2 years ago, if they did this,
would have been
you're
huge.
in a prime spot
absolutely.
to be like the second company that people want to watch, or third company. But now with just like the rising of New Japan is right now,
especially here in the States,
because now they're coming to the States like 3 times, 4 times a year now, which is like super rare.
And they've made an initiative, to really make headway in the United States. Absolutely.
So you got New Japan coming. Now you got AEW starting TV in October, and then you got WWE is always going to be here. Then you got Ring of Honor, if you're into that. They have shows every month. So you got all this stuff happening right now, where it's like, we're just this extra, we're another company
we're just here. Yeah,
but like at the same time, you're like, yeah, but it's like when the XFL starts, and you go, yeah, there's NFL, and then there's gonna be the NBA, and then you got NHL,
right.
And then you're just like that other sporting thing that you can watch, but like, will you with all the other stuff there is available?
Right. Yeah, I think it's gonna be very tough. I'm interested. I'm excited. I'll probably try to watch if it's readily available. Give me one thing though, if you're a fan, right, and you've already said it's gonna be really hard for you to kind of really invest time. What's one thing they can do differently that maybe they're not even AEW's doing? Because outside of the lack of real top talent left to sign, I mean, what is there anything for you that you would be like, let's see, like if you hear they're doing X, then I'll tune in. Anything for you, or are you just kind of like...
No, because for me, everything that I want happens in any other promotion. Like, if you care about the championships, you go to New Japan.
Absolutely.
If you care about wins and losses, how impactful they are, you go to AEW. And if you just want to get, like, pure entertainment in your wrestling, you go to WWE.
Yeah.
So, unless they bring, like, 2 out of those scenarios in there or something, where you go, wow, you get, like, the best of both worlds in this promotion, which is very hard to do all of those at once. I just don't... Actually, it would be that hard to do all 3 at once, but, like,
That's all I was trying to
there's like no company that can do all of them very well at once.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
I have everything I want in a company. If I'm like, wow, I just want to see a great world title match, you go to New Japan. Yeah. AEW's like every single match matters, and WWE's like, wow, you got AJ Styles and all these great guys going here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, where, like, what can they, I don't know, what can they bring?
That's the question, because
I got something everywhere.
Right. I think there's a tradition, right? I think that there is a level of, like, you want to see this entity that has so much history behind it. The NWA Championship, one of the most iconic titles in, if you're into that kind of thing, like I am personally. I think it's going to be very tough, right? Like, I think you're right. If they would have done it 2 years ago, hell, if they would have done it 2 years after this, even, after AEW's kind of the loving phase is kind of worn off, I think they would have been better equipped to kind of do that. But because of where they're going to kind of be slotted, and if they're not getting a national television deal.
No.
So because of that,
you're going to be in Ring of Honor.
Exactly. So it's going to be on. Yeah, right. It's going to be on some random network that half the people get, half the people don't. So because of that, I don't know if there's anything that they can do differently. I just think it's going to have to be one of those things where it's going to have to grow, like kind of Ring of Honor did in the early stages, where it's like we just got to sign everybody else we can. And hope people it's like a cult following kind of thing. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, though. I'm very excited. I'm glad that they're at least making the effort. I'm happy to see, the rest of the guys. There's another place for people to work, right? So if you like a certain guy or a certain group, and they're not in WWE or AEW, then maybe they wind up in the NWA. So that's fun. If they ever come to Michigan, I'll go to their shows. So, all right. Let's shift away from Squared Circle now. Let's talk Detroit Lions now. I know I'm talking about something that people, especially in Detroit right now, probably think, how could you talk about playoffs? Did you not see that first preseason game? Oh my gosh. Did you not see it? Like, Brian Hoyer is the greatest quarterback ever. We can't complete a pass. Oh my gosh. But if we're being honest with ourselves here, now I understand the concern. I wasn't happy after that preseason game ever. But with the investment, the financial investment, and the moves that the Lions have made this offseason in the draft and so on, they've clearly put expectations, hopes, whatever you want to call it, in making this year a run, right? Like, really making this year a year where they should be competing for a division championship, competing for a playoff spot, playoff wins. Is it justified? Is it justified for us fans, due to the amount of investment, right, to be like expecting, you sign Trey Flowers, you sign Coleman, Hawkinson's the tight end. You got Jesse James. Stafford's still here. Year 2 of Patricia. Year 2 of the Kerryon Johnson experience. Galladay's back. Marvin's back. You got all these things, right? All these great pieces, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Is it justified to have a high expectation of this football team, regardless of preseason week 1? For goodness sakes.
I mean, expectations should always be high. You don't ever want to shoot low for your expectations. I think they've done a good job building the team. They have spent tons of money.
No
doubt. Tons of money everywhere.
Absolutely.
And you also can't read too much. And we said it last year that you can't read too much in the preseason games, and they came out and
look like total
garbage. We'll use that word instead.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we can't swear on the show. I've done it before.
I know, me too. Okay.
However, I think last year, week 3, you kind of saw in the preseason game where you're like,
this is where I want to see something.
This is where you want to see something.
Yeah.
And that's when they SHIT the bed. We'll say that. I'm going to spell that.
Right.
When that's the week that they do it,
yeah.
You go, that's troublesome.
Yeah.
When Stafford doesn't even play and your third string quarterback's in the whole game, that's I have less concern over that.
Right. And I think Lions fans, and you have been on point, and I have agreed with this since you said it. Weeks 2 and 3 of the preseason are the games you really want to watch because you're going to see a quarter being played, a couple series. Then the third preseason game is, you get a half. Right.
Series.
So because of that, right, those are the times. But even then, I'm with the majority of you fans, right? I was not happy with the way they look. But if you guys watch the broadcast, really take some time, if you haven't, watch the Lions version of the broadcast with Chris Spielman covering the team, because he does a hell of a job really breaking down what the Lions are doing defensively and offensively as far as scheme, and then comparing it to what the other team was doing, right? the Patriots had Jamie Collins and Keneal Harry in for the whole half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were blitzing and trying different things. The Lions didn't blitz, right? It was all super Madden-esque play calls, inside zone. All right, slant pass, it's just these very simple things there. So I think there needs to be some expectations need to be tempered with like, oh my gosh, we're going 0-16. Calm down. What do they need to do though in your mind? What's a key thing outside of injuries? We're going to assume they stay healthy because you can't say, well, they need to stay healthy. No duh. Yeah. What's key for you in what they have to accomplish this season in order to make the playoffs?
They have to hold defensively.
Yes.
Hold them to under 17 points a game.
Really?
That's their biggest thing because games that get out of hand that go into shootouts with the Lions usually don't end well. And
Not
when
right now.
No, and when you look at it, you go, yeah, you have Steph who has all these fourth quarter comebacks, but at the same time, you go, yeah, but when you're asking him to put up 40 plus points, that's where you're getting into disastrous territory.
Right. For any quarterback, honestly.
For any quarterback,
Yeah,
there's some guys that are like, okay, I can do that, but then there's some like I wouldn't trust if you're like, okay, Chiefs go score 42, can they win the game? I'd probably go, probably not, because there's no way they score that much. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think their defense is their biggest key, having to hold them to a 17-point range to where the offense, because we know it's going to be a slower pace, run the ball, play action pass, probably kind of thing. They're not going to be able to score 30-plus points every single game. So you really need that defense to show up and be there.
No doubt.
Game in and game out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what they've built this team as, right? I think if you look at what they did in the offseason, they addressed the defense heavily, right? I mean, their top two acquisitions, Coleman and Flowers on the defensive side. You brought in Sacks. You still have Slay. Rashawn Melvin's here. You drafted a lot of defense, obviously outside your first-round pick, which is Hawkinson. But you have a lot of defensive pieces that you are expecting to contribute, right? I agree with you on the defense. I'm going to actually go to the offensive side just because you went defense, and I'm going to say that they have to be able to be multiple. And what I mean by that is that everything we're hearing is that Bevel's just going to run the ball, right? I don't think people are truly have any idea how much Stafford loves his tight ends. I don't think people understand how much they love Pettigrew at the time, right? He had 80 catches a year, 700, 800 yards receiving. You got Jesse James, you got Hawkinson. So the ability to be multiple, meaning, all right, at any point in time, I don't know what they're doing. Because last year that was a huge problem, right? Was, they went in and they said, all right, we know what they're going to do. Or even us watching at home, oh, okay, well, they're bringing these guys in. Guess it's a run up the middle, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's a run up the middle. You know what I mean? Just to have, I want a Jim Bob Cooter offense in the sense that I want to protect the football, right? I don't need to take on meaningless shots, but I just want to sprinkle a Scott Linehan, if that makes any sense, right? Scott Linehan's offense being so run and gun and just chuck it down the field and see what happens, which led to more turnovers,
That's not what I want.
Yeah, right, but I want a sprinkle of that, right? I want to have the option. I want to have, the ability to feel like at any point in time, we can score. Right? You know what I mean? And I think you have a quarterback to do that. And I think the other key, Stafford has to, his interceptions have to be 10 or below. And then it's going to be another one. I think as long as he can keep the ball in his hands, I think they have a great shot to win as long as he's smart with the football.
See, people say that, Ron sets up the pass is gone in the NFL.
Totally is not.
Yeah. But I don't believe in that because I think if you have Carrion who's going to average 4 yards a carry or something, I think that's easily going to set the pass up.
Absolutely.
That's how Dallas thrives.
No kidding.
Ezekiel putting 8 guys in the box to stop Zeke, and then having Amari Cooper one-on-one all over the field.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm just you can't. I agree with you that they need to take deep shots and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm take 1 or 2 a game because those 1 or 2 you're easily going to connect because they're going to bite every single
That's another thing too that should make sense, the big play, right? Yeah. We missed a lot of those. Stafford's deep ball last year was terrible. Yeah. I think Marvin not being there for half of the year didn't help, but I think that's got to be another thing. All right, how many wins did you think they need to get to? Is it 9? Is it 10? Is it 11? Is it 12? Is it 112? I don't know. Tell me how many.
Get to that?
I don't even know, dude. That's what I'm saying. They probably won 112 games in 50 years, it feels like.
Okay. I mean,
yeah, right.
Probably not wrong.
So how many games do you think they need to win in order to be like, yep, they get at least a wild card?
Are you talking wild card?
Just to make the playoffs, however they do it, by hook or by crook.
10 wins.
10 wins.
10
you
wins.
Think 10-6 gets it done?
At least a wild card. If you want to win the division, I'd say 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 wins is playoff worthy.
Yeah.
The East is, or not just the East, the NFC in general is very strong because in every division you have like Dallas and the Eagles. Mm-hmm. You have Seahawks and the Rams.
Yep.
You have our division who has like
all four
relatively,
honestly.
And then you have the Saints, Falcons.
Yep.
So every division you're going to have that second place team at
exactly.
9-8
right
win season.
Exactly.
So you have to have at least 10 to 11 to probably at least make the playoffs this year.
Yep.
If not 12,
I'm in total agreement.
If you said Lions are 12 and Fargo, they're in the playoffs.
Yes.
But
right.
if they're
9-7, you're like, what's the rest of the league look like?
You have to, 10 is like generous, so 10-6 you go, where's everyone else at?
Yeah, the 10-6 is still, because you've seen teams go 10-6 and not make it just because of strength of schedule.
So I can say 10-6 as in like, I would still go, where's everyone at? 11 wins, I guess.
If you go 11, you're definitely
11, I'm like, yes, you are 100% at 10 is where I go, you're probably in, but where's everyone else at?
Right. I agree with you. I think 10 wins, and I think that's kind of where people are at. Honestly, I think that's I think 11 wins is probably their ceiling. I don't think they get any higher than that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'm very excited for the season.
What do you think their ceiling and floor is for win totals?
Ceiling is 11 wins. I think their floor is like 5.
Do you think they win at least 5 no matter what?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think there's too much talent on this team.
Too,
I don't think that people are giving. It's funny, and I want to do a full roster breakdown right before the beginning of the season. But when people talk about this team, I don't think they realize what's on this team. There's a lot of good players on this team. Is the depth where they want to be? Maybe not. But I don't think any team right now can say that their depth is where they want it to be.
That's the last point.
Exactly.
If like Slay goes down, you're done.
Exactly. Right.
Guys like that,
but
big guys.
Here's what I will say and give them some credit for before we go off the air. They have enough cap room where they can make a move. Yeah. If they have to, they can go get Pat Pete. Mm-hmm. If they really had to, they could go get him. You know what I mean? Like, if they need to go make a move, they will go. And I think Bob Quinn has shown the propensity to say, you know what? This isn't working. You're gone. Or, you know what? We need to go get a guy, and we're going to go get him. Our run game was our run defense was terrible at the beginning of the year. What do you do? I'm going to get the best defensive tackle possible to stop the run, right? Yeah. And he obviously he swindled the Giants, but the point being is that if there's a move to be made, he went and made the move at the end of the day. So let's have a little bit of faith. And listen, we come on the air in 2 months from now, and we're 0-5, losing the Packers on Monday night, then okay, then we have some cause for concern. But until that happens,
even if we go 0-1 against the Cardinals,
I'm going to be pissed. Yeah, you better tune into that show. We lose game 1 because that'll be a Mike Valeni MSU make plays one of the type of episodes. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for episode 37 of the I Am Always Right Sports Podcast. Please tune in to all of our social media. We have so much big news coming your way so very soon. So many big announcements. We may even look a little bit different next week. Who knows? I don't know yet. Just depends. Depends on how I'm feeling. Depends on how I'm feeling, folks. For the Merc Zone, I am the Mouth of Michigan, and we will see you guys as always next time.